In a small village called Koleka, the air was heavy with the scent of the earth after rain. Birds chirped in the distance, and the sound of cattle bells echoed through the valley. The sun cast a golden glow over the fields as the villagers went about their day. At the heart of the village, on a hill surrounded by trees, stood a grand mansion. It was the home of Sifuna, a wealthy businessman who had left the village years ago to seek riches in the city. Now, he was the richest man in the region, respected and feared by many. He wore a deep blue agbada, finely embroidered with golden threads, and a matching kufi hat. His attire was a symbol of his wealth and power. But beneath his success was a dark truth, a truth that would soon tear at the heart of the village. Naswa, Sifuna's mother, lived in a tiny mud-walled house at the foot of the hill. Her clothes were tattered, and her frail hands shook as she carried firewood to her cooking place. She had raised Sifuna alone after his father died, sacrificing everything to send him to school. Now, she was old and weak, with no one to care for her. One day, Naswa decided to climb the hill to speak to her son. She had heard whispers in the market that Sifuna had returned from the city, and her heart was filled with hope. Perhaps this time, he would remember her struggle and help her. She knocked at the tall, iron gates of Sifuna's mansion. The guard stared at her, unimpressed by her ragged appearance. "I need to speak to my son, Sifuna," Naswa said in a trembling voice. The guards exchanged glances before letting her in. Inside, the mansion was lavish, polished floors, golden vases, and expensive leather furniture. Naswa's heart swelled with pride at her son's success. But when she saw him seated on a leather chair, sipping from a glass of imported wine, her heart sank. He barely looked at her. "Sifuna, my son," she began, her voice breaking, "I have come to ask for your help. I am old now, and I have no strength left. I need your care." Sifuna placed his glass down and looked at his mother with cold eyes. His agbada shimmered under the light, but his heart was as hard as stone. "Mother, I have worked hard for this wealth. I cannot afford to let my name be dragged down by you. You are poor, and I have an image to maintain. People in the city would laugh if they knew my mother lived like a beggar." Naswa's lips quivered, her eyes filling with tears. "But Sifuna, I am your mother. I gave you everything I had. I went hungry so you could eat, I sold my only goat so you could go to school. How can you turn your back on me?" Sifuna stood up, towering over her. His voice was sharp, almost cruel. "Those days are gone, Naswa. I owe you nothing. I built this life with my own hands. Now leave before you embarrass me any further." Naswa stood there, speechless. Her son, the boy she had raised with so much love, had become a stranger. Her heart shattered into 1,000 pieces. Word spread quickly through Koleka. The villagers gathered at Naswa's small hut, where she sat weeping by the fire. The old women clucked their tongues in disbelief, while the men shook their heads. "How can a man forget his mother?" one elder asked, his voice full of sorrow. "It is the curse of wealth," another woman said. "It changes a person." As night fell, the villagers lit a fire in the center of the village. They sang songs of lament, songs of a mother's sacrifice, songs of a son who had lost his way. The fire flickered, casting long shadows over the people who had gathered, their faces marked with grief for Naswa. Days turned into weeks, and Sifuna's fortunes began to change. His businesses in the city started to crumble. One by one, his partners abandoned him. He fell into debt, and soon, the mansion that had once stood proudly on the hill was repossessed. The guards were gone, the wealth disappeared. Sifuna, now a broken man, returned to the village. His agbada was worn and faded, and his once proud walk was now a shuffle. He made his way to his mother's hut, his heart heavy with regret. Sifuna and Naswa sat together outside her small hut, the sun setting over the village. The orange and red hues of the sky painted the horizon, and the sound of the village children playing echoed in the distance. Sifuna had learned a hard lesson, and though he had lost his wealth, he had regained something far more valuable, his mother's love. The story of Sifuna and Naswa spread throughout the village and beyond, a tale of pride, regret, and the unbreakable bond between a mother and her child.